What's the most hypocritical thing you've witnessed? I was having a hard time getting a job after college. My step-grandmother called me every single name in the book. Every variation of deadbeat dependent loser you can possibly think of. Almost every since time I saw her. No self-discipline. No drive. Too dependent on others. I can't believe you can't get a job. I taught my daughters how to work. You're definitely your mother's child. I had expectations for my own kids. All I knew is I had to work. Apostrophe. This is the same person who never had a job in her life. Wasn't able to collect her own social security since she never paid into it. And was 100% dependent on my grandpa. Way to call the kettle black. It got so bad. I had to stop talking to her altogether, since each convo would just be putting me down. If I were you, I wouldn't even call her. There was a girl in one of my classes that spent the entire CL button FASA book every single day. During a presentation she was giving one day, someone noticeably checked their email. We all saw, but we all also knew that she was on FASA book every single day for the entire class. That's why we were all very surprised when she stopped the presentation to scream at this person for being rude and disrespectful and then stormed out. Honestly, she probably just needed a way to get out of the presentation and jumped at the opportunity, then wrote in the burn book. My ex-wife, shortly after we separated, told me if I started seeing someone that she would want to meet them before our kids did, which makes perfect sense. 2 months later, the guy she had an affair with moved from NC to FL and in with her and my 2 kids. I still haven't met him, and it's been 6 months. What the duck, dude, I'm sorry. My girlfriend criticizes me for always being on my phone, yet is seemingly unaware how much she is on hers. Someone from work just got back from a holiday visiting family who live out of the continent. Went from the nightclubs pretended to be closed, but were open for anyone that knew. Had so much fun finally going out for a drink. To I can't believe how bad COVID is here and so many people aren't following the rules. It's infuriating. Real decking quick. Philippines? I've noticed that pretty much any time someone uses the phrase, if you don't like it, leave, it only applies to other people. That person will have no problem complaining endlessly and not leaving. Ig stories. Lately, a post saying shit like, don't forget to wear a mask. We're all in this together. Stay safe everyone. Followed by a series of videos taken inside of a crowded club. Bumping and grinding up on each other. Not a mask in sight. It's lit. Fam. We're all in this together. Me on my private island with friends and a team of servants. I suffer just as hard as you in your studio apartment scrounging for next month's rent. Now listen to me sing Imagine with my other rich friends. Apostrophe. My friends who bitch about people who break lockdown, then go on to break lockdown for sleepovers and early nights the same day they were criticizing others. Infuriatingly entitled. Others must follow the rules, but they don't apply to me. Are they elected officials? That seems pretty regular lately. 2020 was the year of the hypocrisy. These kind of people just pretend stay home to call other people of genocidals. Reading stories on the only moral abortion is my abortion. Apostrophe. Drugged and in the stirrups talking about how everyone in the room but her is going straight to hell. Wish I could say I didn't know hypocritical pieces of shit like this. Oh, perfect example. When I was in college there was a super immature guy that I believe only got into our private school because his parents had money. One day we were sitting in his dorm room watching TV and he speaks up. God, don't you just hate people who steal things for no reason? The rest of us turned and stared in disbelief. Behind him on a shelf was a collection of all the things he'd stolen from businesses. I remember Ed Robin seasoning and bowling shoes. But there was a lot more. A glimmer of self-awareness pierced through his thick skull, and he backtracked somewhat. I mean, for me, it's like my thing. But still, what did he say when you guys called him on that? Question mark? I wish I could remember. This was many years ago. Dude was probably a pathological liar. I remember him telling a story about driving 205 miles per hour on the interstate highway in the middle of the day through a big city known for its traffic. We kind of ignored most of what he had to say. I worked for a small company that hated giving out raises. The owners pulled a neat trick, where they sold the company to itself. Then they became board members, as soon as they weren't responsible for the revenue. After all, they got the money for the sale. We were getting berated for everyone having a low salary. It was like, you set our prices and the salaries as of last month. We don't have any funds, because you sold the business to itself, and we need to pay that note. He was right and we worked on fixing it. But suddenly being blindsided due to being in the position he created drove me nuts. Possibly a dumb question. But how exactly do you sell a company to itself? What does that mean? It was an S-Corp. They created an ESOP, employee stock ownership plan. The company then took out a loan to buy the stock and place it in the plan, with the owners becoming board members and getting a trustee. It was a neat little trick to sell the company. Now the employees that stayed in the company got stock in their retirement account, forced to sell it back to the trust when you leave. So it was a good thing, as long as the company stayed solvent. They got their act together the same year I left. Also removed the former owners. So many employees did very well. But it could have just as easily collapsed under the loan and other demands. People who watch TV for hours on end saying playing video games is a waste of time. I play Minecraft for an hour and a half. And my parents fucking watch Netflix for over 3 hours every day. And then they complain I don't spend time with them. My desk is in my room, goddammit, where else do you want me to work? And vice versa. My mom got very angered that our governor was allowing people to have family over for Thanksgiving and not doing his part to stop the pandemic. A week later, she was very upset about how my grandma had declined her invitation to come have Thanksgiving with us. This exact shit has been the biggest thing that's bugged me with my mom since the pandemic started. She constantly flips between being worried about pandemic stuff and bitching about things being closed and having to wear masks. It's insane. Like, are you concerned about your health or not, bro? I mean, you're allowed to think the restrictions and rules are necessary and not enjoy having to do it. I assume that there's more to your mom's complaining, but yeah. I see how all of the restrictions and rules are there to lower the chances of contacting COVID, but that doesn't mean I like it. That almost everyone I meet can't follow their own advice they give to others. Good rule of thumb. It's easy to say good advice. We all have an idea of what doing good is, but acting on it is always harder. Yup, it's easy to say what's the right thing to do. It's the doing part. The advice isn't bad, just because the person saying it doesn't follow it. When I was going through my college party phase, I ended up hanging with kids who graduated from a local Christian school. They drank, did drugs, and bragged about premarital sex like a lot of college students. When you talked about politics though, they immediately would go on and on about the moral failings of society and how it needs to be more Christian, yada yada. That kind of behavior is actually quite common with radical Islamic terrorists in Western countries. A lot of terrorists, especially in Europe, have a background in petty crimes, drugs and womanizing. Radical preachers take advantage of that to blame their personal failings on just how decadent and sinful Western culture is, and how if Western culture didn't make this kind of sin so easy and entice, then they would have never fallen prey to the sin. My ex is a huge Trump supporter. Meanwhile, he is also a thief who is not allowed in any grocery store in town. According to him, I'm a libtard. I have never stolen anything in my life. I work in a courthouse. People who abuse children for years and years, and when they get on the stand they break down crying and plead for mercy. You never showed mercy to your own child, and you would like this court to show mercy to you? The judge. Probably. In Alberta, Canada, our government, rightfully, put in place very strict social distancing rules over the Christmas holidays. Everyone had to stay home. You couldn't see anyone outside your household. Our hospital/ICUs were full. Tons of businesses were closed. Many government officials traveled outside of the country to places like Mexico, Hawaii and Europe. Some of them to meet extended family members for a holiday. One of them tried to defend their actions by saying, "But it's a 17-year tradition for us to go to Hawaii for Christmas." Astounding. Please tell me Albertans are keeping a list of the politicians to vote out of office. OMG, the majority of Albertans are not that clever. I've seen so many stick up for the UKP even through all of this. They will continue to vote UKP because that's what they do. bashing other people for racism and being racist towards a different minority. There are two things I just can't stand in this world. People who are intolerant of other cultures, and the Dutch. As a Dutch person, I agree. Just my dad in general. Here's some highlights. As a child, he'd often tell me I had to think for myself. But then he'd beat me if I said things he disagreed with. Sometimes, he'd pose questions to me, and then hit me until I guessed the chain of logical jumps that led to the conclusion he was looking for. He once went on a 4-hour rant about how my generation are all dirty communists and Muslims are all terrorists and a big gay conspiracy and other such nonsense. I couldn't get a word in edgewise, but he had the gall to end with I'd be willing to change my mind if anybody were willing to have a discussion with me, but nobody's willing to talk with me. When Trump got elected and people were complaining about it, his response was, how dare they question the president? That's disrespectful to the office. A month earlier, he was still aboard the Obama birther train. These days, he thinks Biden stole the election. In high school, he sometimes made fun of me for being a creature of habit. He's had the same routine, worn identical outfits, and eaten the same lunch every day for the past 20 plus years at least. I didn't have much say in my routine back then anyway. School ate up most of my time, and it's not like my parents allowed me to get together with my friends. Similarly, he'd make fun of me for not having friends. I did have friends, but to him, they didn't count, because he'd never met them, because he never allowed them to visit, because he'd never met them. He has one friend that he sees outside of work once a year, and oftentimes not even that. Your dad is a sad man who was clearly never equipped with the tools needed to find any modicum of self-respect or happiness in life. My wife's dad was like that a bit, too. Very hypocritical. But man, he was just a sad guy who was the way he was and had no clue how to even go about starting to change. Reddit users pointing out toxicity while basking in toxicity. Someone wished me that my life will be hell because I wasn't compassionate enough in their opinion. Classic internet move. My mother crying over sex trafficking victims in other countries while ignoring me telling her when someone was touching me inappropriately and begging my brother to ask for a lighter sentence for the bastard who sexually assaulted him because he's a man of God. Apostrophe. Sorry bro, but your mom's a piece of shit. Hope you and your brother are doing well, and I wish you to the best. I've been repeatedly sexually harassed by a gay man before, and have even had to make sure he didn't find out where I lived, so he couldn't keep doing it. When I explained this one time to my coworkers, one sneered and said I was just being homophobic and assuming it was harassment. I said the man has repeatedly attempted to convince me to sleep with him despite my refusals, attempted to find my home, and once tried to trap me in a public restroom to make sure he couldn't lose track of me. If I was a woman in this situation, would my coworker even think of telling me that I was overreacting? Fortunately, the rest of my crew supported me and tell him it was hypocritical to assume sexual harassment can only happen to women. My friend is in the middle of getting a restraining order against a gay man like this. Everyone around my friend is saying he's overreacting. But when you are almost raped and harassed every time you go to the bar, there is a problem. Televangelists preaching how we should live modestly while they own several private jets to fly around the country spreading the word of the Lord. Sometimes they'll come on TV saying God came to them in a dream saying they needed more. Jesus would fly coach if he flew at all. I believe Jesus also preached about taking in the displaced, etc. I hike in 2017 Jodestein was not allowing hurricane evacuees into his megachurch. Gavin Newsom telling Californians to stay home then proceed to go out to eat with multiple people at an astronomically priced restaurant. I was having a good morning. My company said that money is too tight right now for promotions or raises. A couple of weeks later, a manager that is close friends with ours and the CFO got promoted to director along with a nice raise. All this while he was working from home and not doing anything. Would take hours to respond to emails. Just recently had a company meeting, and a big point the president brought up was how we weren't getting enough people from the underserved communities to help them. He pulled up a slide, and it showed how little the people in the community made a year, and they made $1.500 more a year than me. I almost stood up and said, then why do you pay us less than that? Why do you expect us to want to put in the extra effort when we are getting less than them? Apostrophe. Pretty hypocritical to tell us we need to get more of them in the door to help them when we don't even get that. A cigarette butt being tossed out the window of a Prius. I know plenty of Prius owners that don't give a damn about the environment. They wanted the fuel savings. Pretty much all of them. In my experience, I've never met any of the I just wanna save the earth crowd driving electrics. Any my uncle's opinions is basically just this costs me 10 cents to drive to work instead of $5. Nice. I know someone who won't take any vaccines because she doesn't want the mercury and who knows whatever else is in there in her body, yet eats fish and has unprotected sex with strangers from the internet. Just do the apple test, list all the chemicals in an apple, say this is everything in a normal vaccine. What chemicals do you not want in your body? Then reveal it's an apple and reveal the stupidity or use of food they eat a lot. For personalization. If someone is truly so scared of it that they won't get vaccinated, this sadly won't do much to change their mind. They will keep finding reason after reason to confirm their false beliefs. I know because from experience lol. A chick who posted about how she doesn't eat beef because she loves cows, the next day posted a photo of her new design leather handbag. Thank you for watching. We hope you enjoyed this video. Please subscribe for more videos.